Welcome back to another edition of the 208 Prep Sports Podcast, brought to you by Four Corners Sports, guys. Heating up towards the playoffs as we talk about football here. How you doing today, Tony?
I'm great, man. Excited. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it this week here, guys. As always, brought to you by Four Corners Sports Show with Four Corners Sports here. If you want to look us up on social media, that's the number 4 Corner Sports. Again, the number 4 Corner Sports. Any one of your social media platforms, guys. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. We have it against the spread. Four Corners ATS at the end on Twitter. If you want to follow some of our picks, see how we're doing there, give us some feedback on that. Obviously, guys, you can listen to us on a number of different platforms. This is Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play Store, Apple Podcasts, as well as our new platform, Spreaker. So please tell your friends, tell your family. Would love to get the word out about our local podcast here regarding the prep sports scene, as well as our national coverage with the Four Corner Sports Show. So Tony, let's start it off here. Your game of the week last week, BK and the number 1 CUNA Cavemen coming in to visit them. Wasn't much of a game there, was it?
Yeah, I was after talking with Coach Brennan and knowing BK and their program, I was there on the sidelines, and I was pretty shocked at that outcome. And CUNA just from the get-go just ran him out of the building. CUNA's good, don't get me wrong, but BK made so many uncharacteristic mistakes, like we've talked about before, that they don't hurt themselves. They hurt themselves over and over and over. It was bad. I was really surprised.
You had a front row view here off of the sideline there. Obviously at home at BK there. And CUNA being the number 1 team in the state definitely looked like it. Now defensively, BK did move the ball. It had some costly turnovers there, shot them in the foot, just like you said, man.
Yeah, from the 20 to 20, they got it done. But once they got in the red zone, fumble, interception, penalty, they scored on one who was brought back because of holding. Just stupid things. It's, like I said, uncharacteristic of Bishop Kelly. CUNA earned the win for sure, but
yes.
It was just surprised.
And BK had a real trouble stopping them as well. Obviously, the turnovers, giving them more possessions, helped. But I think BK did do one thing, and that was expose CUNA a little bit. Yes, just like as you said, 20 to 20, they were driving the football most of the game. So it'll be interesting to see if CUNA could clear that up, because they looked pretty unstoppable regardless of that. Offensively, it doesn't look like anyone's keeping up with them this year. But, any other games you want to touch on from last week? Anything else that caught your eye, man, especially here in the 5A?
Well, that Eagle or Timberline at Eagle, which, like I talked about before, winning at Eagle is almost impossible. And Timberline got away with the win 23-22. Ben Ford, the star quarterback for their team, actually tore his ACL in the second quarter, I believe. So he's done for the season, and that totally turned the game, and
yes,
it changed Eagles' season. So
absolutely,
we'll see how that's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, guys. We'll touch that on that in just a second here. But Timberline, man, coming in hot. That's 2 wins in a row with them. Kind of swinging their season around here. Who do they have up next? Skyview?
Yep, they're playing Skyview and then finish with Boise to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yes, could finish with a winning record here if they close out the season hot. Guys, after doing an interview with Coach Brennan of BK last week, Tony and I got together and talked about it a little bit, and based on the feedback that we got, it's definitely something we want to continue here for you guys. So, we actually did have our second guest, join us here. And, as Tony mentioned, he is going to be doing this, or try to be doing this, with a number of different coaches as we move forward here in a number of different programs. But just based off of that win there against the Eagle, and to kind of get some thoughts from that sideline, we'd like to bring on another special guest here on the 2-Way Prep Sports Podcast. In our second interview actually of the series, and that is offensive coordinator Matt White. played at Sacramento State and started coaching actually at Bora here, from 2013 to 2017. Now the offensive coordinator for the varsity squad over at Timberline the last couple of years. We'd like to welcome Matt White here on the Two-Way Prep Sport podcast presented by Four Corner Sports. So enjoy, guys.
All right, guys, it's Tony Roman here with another 208 Prep podcast, and we have a special guest, Coach Matt White, the offensive coordinator of the Timberline Wolves. Coach, thanks for being here today.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me.
Coach, let's get right into it. Let's talk about your team. You guys are currently 3-4 right now, going into the last 2 weeks of the season. Playoff push is starting. Tell me a little bit about your team, offensively, defensively, what you got going. What am I looking for?
I would say this year, our defense has definitely stepped up, and I would say they're carrying us right now. The last 2 weeks we've held Rocky and Eagle to scoreless in the second half of both games. And our offense right now is still trying to figure out kind of where we're at. One game will be pass heavy, one game run heavy. And the good thing is we have guys that can do it, and we're just waiting to play that first complete game. And I think this week we can do it.
Yeah, I saw all your games have been super close, 1 or 2 touchdowns, or 1 or 2 points, except for that first game, but who knows what's going to happen the first game of the year. But tell me about this Eagle game. It was a huge upset in the state. When I saw it, I was shocked. I was like, no way, because I've seen Eagle play 4 or 5 times, and they're pretty dang good.
They are very good, and they're always good, very well coached. The athletes they have are always excel in what they do. And we just went into it with a kind of attitude of, hey, we feel like we can play with them. We just got to stay confident. And first drive of the game, we went down and scored, and that was the first time we'd scored in the first quarter the entire season.
Wow.
So I think that gave us some confidence. And then after that, we kind of just held on for a little bit. Defense did a great job, especially in the second half, and we just did what we needed to do on offense, and then came down to the last-second field goal and had a guy block it and made a huge play for us.
So it was a field goal block or a PAT block?
It was a field goal.
Wow.
It was a field goal. Our defense had them. They were on the 1-yard line, first and goal on the 1. We had 3 straight stops and then blocked the field goal, and so our defense has stepped up when we needed them to.
I mean, that's a huge boost to keep you guys in the race for the playoffs this year.
Absolutely.
Coach, tell me a little bit about your quarterback, Andy Peters. He is second in my book of players in the SIC next to Austin Bolt from Bora. What I know about this kid so far, he's big, tall, he's got a gun, he makes good reads, he can put it on him where it needs to be, and he's getting some looks from some D1 schools. Tell me about Andy.
Yeah, heck of a player. And the unfortunate part is him being out in Idaho. I don't think he's getting looked at as much as he should. He is a D1 caliber player. He's got a D1 caliber arm, size to go along with it. And I think this year, he's probably not having the year he wanted so far, but I think he's one of those guys that can change a game. And what I've noticed in the last couple weeks is we ran him a little bit more. He's got 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games running. And so kind of being that dual threat quarterback has allowed him to excel in the last few weeks and get us some victories. His biggest thing, I think, is just continuing to lead this team like he can. And I think the next 2 weeks can be very big for him, especially in the pass game.
And with everything going on with college now, players entering the transfer portal and everything, looking at this kid coming up, he could have left this year and gone to another school with, say, more talent around him to showcase his abilities, but he stayed here, wanted to be with his guys, with his friends, finished his senior year. That has to say something about him, too, his character.
Absolutely. Great character kid, great student, and we preach that first here. And right now he's getting looked at by some of the Big Sky schools. Already has an offer by Idaho State. I know some of the Pac, even Oregon State has come here and looked at him. Washington's looked at him. Boise State has looked at him a little bit. Yale, I have a connection with Yale coaches, and so they've kind of looked at him because his grades are very well. And so I think he's on that point where he has a couple more big games and he's going to get those couple more offers that teams are kind of waiting for him to see what they can do. A lot of teams have said, hey, we want to see what he can do on the ground. Can he run? Is he mobile? And he absolutely is. He can throw great on the fly. He can throw on our sprint out. And he's showing lately that he can also run the ball as well.
Well, that's good. He can do it all. So hopefully it keeps it up these next 2 games, get you guys into playoffs.
Absolutely.
Coach, let's go to your game coming up. You guys play Skyview. It's senior night, I believe.
Senior night.
Big game. Senior night's always emotional, things going on, distractions. Tell me about the Skyview team.
Skyview, if you look at their record, you're going to say they're down this year. They're usually very well coached. Coach Young is a great coach over there. And I know him from football and from track. He's a great guy. And I know he's one of those coaches that does things the right way, puts his players in positions to do well, and they're going to compete. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They are a good team that's going to compete. They're fighting for a chance, an outside chance at a wild card spot. And so, it's one of those matchups where you're going to get two good teams coming out there, have something to fight for, and I think you're going to see a good football game on Friday night. And I think it's one of those where if we play like we're supposed to play, I think we'll come out on top.
So tell me the keys to victory for Timberline offensively.
Offensively, we have to move the ball early. And that's been our key the last couple of weeks. We've talked about, we've waited to the second half. And we've done some good things in the second half, but it's been too late at times, or now we're playing catch up. So our biggest thing is we are talking about first series of the game. What can we do? Can we get it down to the red zone? Can we punch it in from the first get-go? And the defense, causing turnovers. And that's something we've done well all year. I think we have 14 this year, takeaways. And last year we had 5 the entire season. So that's been a big focus on the defensive side, getting that ball back, giving us a chance to do something on the offensive side.
And special teams, like you said, you had a special team PAT or field goal block last week to win. Was that the first one of the year?
That was the first block of the year. Our special teams have been greatly improved from last year. We have a guy, actually a former Boise State player, Dustin Camper, who came in. He's kind of leading the special teams charge, and he's gotten those guys fired up. And we're doing great on kickoff coverage, and that's one of those things where you give the offense the ball in their territory and make them work for it, and we've done a good job at that as well.
Yeah, special teams is huge. A lot of people don't understand that. People on the outside, not in the game, don't know that.
Yep.
Coach, let's talk about playoffs. What's it looking like for you guys to get in?
Hey, we always said 4 is kind of that magic number. In the past, 4 has gotten you in. Our biggest thing is we're taking one game at a time. We're sitting at 3 wins right now. We're looking at Skyview as, hey, this is a playoff week for us. We can't, look in too far into the future. With the last 2 games we have, we got to take care of business here. If we take care of business here, we should be playoff bound. Where we're going to go, not necessarily sure. There's a few games that will kind of dictate who goes where, who finishes what. But if we win this game and play the way we should be in the playoffs this year.
So you guys control your own destiny.
We do. We do at this point. Yep.
It's a lot better that way than relying on someone else.
Absolutely. And we kind of talk to kids about that. Is look, we can only control what we can control, and if we do the right things in the right order, and I think we're kind of catching that little momentum right now on both sides of the ball, and hopefully take that into this week and the last week as well.
Yeah, a little backstory on that. Me and Coach White coached together at Bora, and we lost a game we shouldn't have and ended up having to do a 3-way
Kansas City
playoff, and we beat Nampa but lost to Timberline, actually, and we were out of the playoffs because didn't take care of business when it needed to be done.
Yep.
But, Coach, let's talk about the 5A teams around the state. What do you know about any of them?
Around here, in the Treasure Valley, you're going to have your Rocky, your Mountain View, and Eagle, usually kind of the top 3. And last couple of years, it's been that Capitals crept in, Bora's creeping in and making a run, and they're doing well this year with Bolton. We know what he can do. And then kind of the eastern part of the state, I think this year comes down to Highland and Rigby. Is going to be that 1-2 punch. The winner is going to be that 1 seed for them. The loser is going to be a 2 seed. Highland's a big running team, from what I know, and Rigby likes to throw the ball. Dual threat quarterback, I think Keegan Thompson, who's a stud, getting some good looks out there. And then the north, Coeur d'Alene. You always got to think Coeur d'Alene when you think of the north. Same thing this year. They're kind of running that show there. Only losses to Highland this year in a close game.
Yeah, we touched about that before.
Yeah, I heard that. And then last game of the year, they play Post Falls. Post Falls is on fire this year and what they're doing. And so that game last week of the year, it's going to come down to that. I think it's that same thing. Winner takes first, loser takes second. So some big games kind of at the end of the year this year, all around the state.
Yeah. Like I said, playoff, this is week 7? We got 2 weeks left. It's crazy. It's going so fast. And then playoffs are kicking in. Well, Coach, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having
guys, come out at 7 o'clock kick.
7 o'clock at Donald Larson Park.
Friday night, Timberline versus Skyview. Cheer them on to get this win, to keep their playoff hopes alive. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Tony.
Once again, that was Matt White, offensive coordinator for the Timberline varsity football squad. Big game against Skyview, trying to keep that record going. Thanks a lot, Coach White, and thanks, Tony, for grabbing that for us.
Yeah, it was fun. I've known Matt for a while. Good guy. So you guys heard it here. What needs to be done, keys to victory, and how they can make the playoffs. Hopefully that happens for them.
You know what? And stat-wise, we wanted to do the stats after our interview with Coach White here. Thanks once again to Coach White. How are the stats looking out? Especially with the Ford injury, and is there anyone else stepping up? Catching Bolt in any one of the categories or anything like that?
Well, let's go after the Timberline game and the Bolt injury. Eagle is still number one in the state with 40.4 points a game offensively.
I'd like to just say Ford injury too, not the Bolt injury.
Or Ford, yes. Sorry. Rocky at number 2 with 40 points. Mountain View, number 3 with 38. And then Post Falls up north at 38.4 points a game. Those are the top 4 scoring offenses in the league. And then we go to defense. We got Rocky again giving up, get this, Mike, 9 points a game. 9 points a game. They've played 7 games, and they've given up 63 total points. That's unreal. Mountain View is a close second at 13. And then 3 is Highland with 14.7 points a game. I mean, those 3 defensive teams are unreal.
A good defense being played. And I think you made a great point, man. 63 points through 7 games is just kind of unreal there. And it's the champs to lose I think this next run here. I think we're going to have to see a team really knock them off before I pick anybody else.
Yeah. And then the stat-wise, individual stats, I just want to touch on last week's game with Austin Bolt. 227 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 kickoff return touchdowns, 94 and 85, and a 70-yard interception return for a touchdown, all in the first half of the game. I'm done talking about him.
Video game numbers. Every time he touches the ball, it's electric. And I think that's why we're seeing so many offers come in. We're seeing him rise up the board on a lot of programs, prospect boards. So it'll be exciting to see him kind of light it up and turn it up a notch in the playoffs and see. I'm getting a little ahead of myself if they may even make the playoffs. But it'll be nice to see him finish out the season and see what else he can do to kind of bolster his name and see if he can get any other offers to come in. Now, obviously, what is this? He's playing in your game of the week, is he not?
Yeah.
Bora at Mountain View here, guys, on Friday, 7 p.m. under the lights in Meridian there. Tony, why don't you go into the game of the week here?
Yeah, this is going to be a great one. Coach Benedict, that 13-point-a-game defense, which their only game they lost was to Rocky, number 1 in the state, at Rocky also. So I think Bora doesn't have enough. Like I've touched on it before. They're 5-2. They've gotten lucky a couple times. They beat who they should beat. Bolt has done his thing, which we've talked about over and over. But Mountain View's too much. That defense is too much. They're too good. They complement each other on offense. Special teams wise, Mountain View's going to roll Bora tonight. I think it's going to be a blowout for my game of the week. Mountain View over Bora at Maverick Stadium tonight at 7 o'clock.
You know what? Thanks for that, Tony. As you guys heard, game of the week, Bora at Mountain View. Before we finish up here, is there another game you're looking at outside of the Valley here, or any kind of bigger matchups we're seeing across the state?
Yeah, honestly, I want to see how BK responds after that beatdown. They play at Ridgeview, who is 1-6, 2-5, something like that, and they got nothing left, so they're coming out guns ablaze. And I got to see how BK responds about this game. How their week of practice. I talked to one of their coaches. They said they went back to fundamentals this week, which is weird because every time you lose a big game and it's a lopsided victory like that, all coaches go back to fundamentals. But BK went back to their fundamentals. They worked on their tackling, which was atrocious in that Nampa or that CUNA game. And they worked on just the alignment, assignment, and technique. And so let's see how they respond against Ridgeview.
Thanks a lot, Tony, for that. Again, BK bouncing back against Ridgeview, 7 o'clock as well, Friday, guys. Thanks once more for joining us on this edition of the 208 Prep Sports Podcast, brought to you by Four Corners Sports. As we mentioned at the start of our show and every show, guys, you can communicate with us in any one of the social media platforms. Tony and I love giving feedback regarding our show here, as well as, the other corners of Four Corners. We respond almost immediately, guys. We love putting out content that you guys want to listen to. So please let us know how you're liking the interviews and what else you want to see here specifically in the Treasure Valley or with our national coverage, guys. And you can communicate with us, the number 4 Corners Sports. Again, the number 4 Corners Sports on any of the social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. We also have our ATS, or Gets the Spread picks, guys. We are releasing those almost daily. If you're looking to, see kind of how we're doing, we love your feedback up there as well. And as usual, you can listen to us on any one of the podcast listening platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, and our new platform, Spreaker, guys. So once again, thanks, Tony, and we'll see you next time on the Two-Way Prep Sports Podcast. Later, guys.
Thanks, Mike.